There we are.
Hop!
Yeah, whoopsie, here we go. We're alive. Hello, Viv.
Hello, Suzy. How are you today?
Wonderful. How about you?
I'm good. I'm just having a little bit of a today.
Okay. Well, maybe
Just
you're
thought I'd say
picking
that.
on our not so cheerful topic, because one of the things that I actually wanted to start with is, please, you guys, if you are out there and you are one of those people that are struggling with money so much that you are facing the idea of maybe having to give up your animal, please no, please don't judge yourself. Don't make yourself wrong. Don't put that on top of everything. It's hard enough. And please also recognize that there are many, many organizations out there that actually are there to help you, but you have to be willing to ask for it. And I know sometimes that's the hardest thing, especially if we have been, self-sufficient and really like accomplished and all these things, and all of a sudden we're falling on hard times. It's really hard to ask for something, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't, I'm not a charity case, I don't need this. But honestly, if it comes down to it, there's so many organizations out there that actually have programs for people that are struggling with their animal to really avoid having to give the animal up and keep them in the home, so that you can really feed them still and get some veterinary assistance when required, and you don't have to part with your animal. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Please don't make yourself wrong, and please don't be proud, and just allow yourself to be vulnerable and ask for help. That's just my statement, my starting statement here.
Thank you, Suzy. That is such a beautiful segue into the conversation that we're having, because there is a sense of pride. It's like I've failed, or I'm a terrible person, or I can't believe I'm even thinking about giving the animal up. But when the strings are tight, a lot of people's brains go into, right, what can I cut out of my life? What can I cut down on? What expenses can I trim? How can I budget? And yes, there's that as a practical point of view. If you've got a family or whatever, whatever your situation is, there is that pragmatic part where you do look at what you're spending your money on, and are there places that you are spending money that is not creating greater for you, or that you don't need to. And then if it does come to that point where you're looking at the family pet, or the children's pet or whatever, then you've got all of that emotional turmoil inside of you, knowing that, okay, well, this is the family pet, or whatever relationship you've built with that. And like you were saying, just being really gentle with yourself with that process, because that doesn't have to be a foregone conclusion. I know a lot of people get to that point where, okay, we've got to find a new home for our dogs, cats, horses, whatever it is. But there are a few other, and this is why, I think I love our conversations, because we always offer possibilities that maybe when you're in a stressful state, you can't sense a possibility. The walls close in, you become very, I guess, fear driven in some respects, and you're in panic, you're in survival mode, and you're trying to get through life as best you can, but there's an enormous amount of stress load on your system. So, some of the possibilities are, well, you can ask your animal, can you bring me more money? Can you find a way to generate more income? Can you find money or find a way that we can feed you? And I know that might sound a bit strange to some people if you're new to the Talk to the Animals tools, but animals desire to contribute, and the flip side of that is the animal also desires to create ease, So if you're also thinking about letting go of your animal, hey, look, this is the situation. Would you like to bring in a new owner? Would you like to bring in a new family? Would you like to move somewhere else? Is there a different environment? And include the animal in this choice. Because I see a lot of these animals in shelters are so confused and lost and bewildered because they're a pack animal, and it's like their pack has just discarded them with no conversation, with no communication, with no inclusion of the animal, of talking to it and going, look, this is the situation. So Yeah, and that's my some of my takes on it. It's like, include the animal in the process. Animals are brilliant at bringing in situations that when you're stressed, you can't even conceive. But when you ask for help, like you were saying, Susie, it's like, ask the animal, hey, look, this is a situation. Could you help me here? Could you contribute to this? A greater
Right.
possibility for you. I'd love you to go to a home, and what if the animal had a better home than what you've actually given it? You know?
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops.
Yeah. No, I think you just said it brilliantly too with and the whole idea of asking your animal to help is also something, like you said, it's so unconceivable in so many ways that we don't even think about it. And plus, we also make it linear and we go immediately into "Oh, how can my animal contribute to me financially? That's impossible. My animal is not, it doesn't have any skills to, earn me money." Because we go into the logical part of it. We don't really look at the energetic part of it. And I think that a lot of times we really forget, and that actually is true for our entire money situation. What if you didn't have to go into panic, but what if you really asked the universe to support you financially and ask your animals to support you financially? And then the weird thing is sometimes things will show up that you didn't expect, that are not necessarily money. But so maybe somebody gives you a bag of groceries, and please, when these things show up, don't say no to them, because that's the universe supporting you. That is the universe gifting you something in your current situation to make things easier. So when somebody is actually coming to you with that kindness of giving you a bag of groceries, or
Yeah.
gifting you a car, or gifting you some clothes, or whatever it might be, or getting a gift card for something, please say yes and thank you. And again, that's the part where we oftentimes have this like, "Oh, no, 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 I can't accept that." But what if you could actually accept that and really be willing to say, "Wow, thank you so much, universe. That's a very cool surprise."
Mm. Yeah, and I think a much rawer part of this conversation, and thank you to Nicola, one of the amazing ladies that works in your team, who came up with this idea. She'd realised, or she'd researched, the enormous amount of pets and animals that are having to be surrendered to shelters right now because people are in this financially very difficult situation, and the shelters aren't coping. So the raw side of this, and the side that a lot of people get very emotive about, is having an animal put to sleep, because that's what a lot of the shelters do. Say in non-COVID times or non-post-COVID times, they would manage to get a certain amount of animals rehomed. And yes, dogs that aren't maybe more appealing to people, or have got a bit more, they need a bit more attention or handling or whatever, they tend to be the last ones that are adopted. Or often people will just ignore those and go for the real, the happy waggy tail ones, rather than the maybe subdued, or they're probably a type of dog that people don't want, so to speak, because of the projections on those types of animals, the breeds. So, I think there's now, with the amount of animals that are being surrendered, obviously the shelters aren't coping. So does the rate of euthanasia increase? Does the time period that these animals have in the shelter to potentially be adopted or find a new home, is that reduced? And, people are also aware of this. So do you want to speak to that, Suzy? Because I know this is a really, again, this is the next level. Giving your pet away or finding a new home for it is one thing, but surrendering it to a shelter with the unknown of, I hope it gets rehomed, but there's a very, real chance that that dog or cat may be put to sleep.
Yeah. Well, and I think you said it actually a little bit earlier. The one thing that we often do in situations like this is that we either go into survival or panic mode, where we are really not so much seeing basically the shore. We're drowning and we don't see the shore. And in that situation, it's sometimes really hard to trust that there are other possibilities out there, and that there are ways to do this that might be different than what we think. And, including the animal, like you said, I think this is the most important thing, not to forget that. And so please, keep connected to your animal. Stay connected with your animal. Don't separate from them, because when you do that energetic separation, that's where the animal gets really confused. That's where they really are not understanding. But oftentimes we do that to protect our own emotions. And we try to do this from like a heart leveled kind of a logical mind, like, the animal has to go now. And even if it's not like that, but the moment you come to that conclusion and you have to do this hard step, you start to separate yourself, because it's hard to stay present in that moment, because it becomes a very vulnerable space for you. And
Mm.
and that is what really can confuse the animal. And I actually have met a few animals in the shelter that were really not sure, why am I here, what
Yeah.
is this,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, like, I used to go around and do a lot of volunteer work in shelters, and I would give little talks in the shelters to kind of help the volunteers that are there to help the animals to find new homes and teach them, like our energy poles, which are really cool. And actually, Viv, you and Emma are going to be doing some energy poles with animals, in the next few weeks or months. And people, please have a look at that, because the energy poles are so powerful. And,
Mm.
I have gotten so much feedback that when the volunteers would be doing that with the animals that are in the shelter to really pull in their new people, it really started happening quickly. And a lot of dogs and
Mm.
cats got adopted quite quickly, which the volunteers were in awe of, because they didn't think that this would be a tool that actually works. But it gets the animal really clear that, hey, look, this is a place where you are actually looking for a new home. An
Mm.
animal doesn't know what a shelter is. It just knows, I'm in a new environment with a lot of other animals. There's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of strange energy. There's a lot of despair in the air. But all of that are these projections and all these energies that are getting put on this environment, not from the animals. The animals don't sit there and go, I'm in a shelter, I'm a victim. No, they are just there, but
Mm.
they might be confused. They might be like, waiting for
Mm.
you to come back. Um, so, that's the part, I think, where if you can be really clear with your animal, hey, help me find a new home for you. Help me with that. What is the energy of the people that you would like to have in your life? What is the energy of where you want to go? Help me find that for you. And if you're willing to really be present with that, you might not have to bring them to the shelter. You might be able to find a new home for them that doesn't have to involve that route. It can, but it doesn't have to.
Mm.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, yeah.
Yeah. And if you are watching this now or in the future and you are facing this situation, or somebody that's facing this situation, Suzy does private sessions. I do private sessions. We've got other Talk to the Animals certified facilitators across the globe. You can pick the phone up. You can have a Zoom with us. If it's something that is really troubling you or that's really stressful, just like you were saying, Suzy, clearing those projections, because the animal going to the shelter, your relationship with the animal, your choice, a lot of people go into guilt and then they go into wondering what happened to the animal. So it doesn't have to be this, unfinished business. It doesn't have to be this really unpleasant thing that you're faced and you've got to carry, or trying to explain to the kids. So the tools of Talk to the Animals based on access consciousness are phenomenal. They shift that dense, yucky, icky, stucky, heavy energy that we get, like you say, we get really blindsided to. And it's very difficult to make choices from that place because your emotions are overruling everything. And when you're in a really highly emotional state, we don't make the best choices. We're in a reactive state. So to be able to clear all of that reactivity and actually have a clearer plate to choose from, something magic and miraculous could potentially show up. Animals also, you know, they know what they're choosing. You know, this is another massive topic. So maybe we can talk about that in another live too. But you know, the start the conversation, the beginning class to talk to the animals is it addresses a lot of this stuff in regards to how our emotions are so entwined within, you know, our pets and our animals and how we interact. And our emotions, our thoughts, our projections have a massive impact on the quality of that relationship and where that relationship can go. So there are always possibilities. Please, please, please know this. There are always other possibilities that maybe you haven't considered yet. And sometimes talking to a good friend, you know, picking up a book, the Talk to the Animals book by Gary Douglas is a phenomenal resource, and it's $25 or something, you know. So there's lots of possibilities. There's lots of people you can reach out to. So I just wanted to say that if you are watching this and going, I want to have some help, what do I do? I'm in this situation. That's, you know, go to the Talk to the Animals Facebook page, or talktotheanimals.com, or suzygodsey.com, or vivadcock.com. You can find us in any of those places.
Yeah. And don't forget your local resources too. You know, there are many, many privately funded organizations that do animal stuff in your location. I am sure of it. You know, if you do a little research, you might find places that can actually help you, because there are a lot of places now that really focus on exactly these situations where they want to help you keep your animal, you know. And so what if it doesn't have to be, no, the animal has to go? No, what if you actually had your food paid for the next 4 months? Would that be a possibility for you to bridge this really hard time, you know, or 6 months, or I don't know. Like, a lot of places out there really have some programs now that are fantastic and are focusing on you not having to surrender your animal. And so, you know, have a look around. The shelter is not the only resource in your community. And like we've said, you know, pick up your search engine and go, or, you know, talking to people, go to the pet store and ask. Even pet stores sometimes might have food that has been returned, you know, that they actually can gift you. There are certain things too that, you know, it doesn't have to be super hard either, and it's already hard enough. So see if you can make this part a bit easier on you.
And that, what you began with, Suzy, what kindness can you be to you through this? What kindness can you receive through this as well? Because there is a level of vulnerability with asking and receiving, you know. So what could that transform in your life? And if you're brand new to the tools of access consciousness or Talk to the Animals, the one question I would love to leave you with is, what else is possible here that I haven't considered yet? And you're asking the question, and it's like you're just blowing a dandelion, you know. And when we were kids, we used to blow the dandelion, and we never thought twice about where the seeds landed. We just blew the dandelion, made the wish, and then carried on with our life, asking that question, what else is possible here, you know, that I haven't considered yet, allows the universe, allows other magical connections, conversations. You know how things work. You see an advert in the paper, you talk to somebody at the pet food shop. There's infinite ways. There's infinite possibilities. So, you know, don't give up hope. It's not a big, you know, it's not the end of the world. And what else is possible that you haven't considered yet?
Yes. And what would it take for you to be courageous in this? Courageous is really being vulnerable, being willing to ask for help. That is courageous. That is not a weakness. Everywhere you thought that it was weak, if you ask for help, please let that go. Please destroy and uncreate it. Please know that asking for help is actually a strength. And, you know, and it's very courageous. So what if you saw yourself as the courageous person that can ask for something?
What a great place to end this amazing conversation. So thank you so much, Suzy. As always, it's an amazing adventure. We never know where we're going to go with these. We just come up with a title and then it just comes out as if by magic.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Viv. And thanks you all for watching. And please, again, if you are in this situation, please reach out to somebody, and you don't have to carry this on your own.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today and in the future. And if you know anybody that's struggling, please share this. You know, it could change somebody's life. So what contribution could it be?
Thank
You,
you.
Suzy.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Viv.
everybody.